Breaking tonight, tragedy in Baltimore as a 13-year-old girl shot last week has died. But a major break in the case, the arrest just announced. New pictures of the moments leading up to the shooting death of Timothy Reynolds.
As the victim is walking away.
Fox 45 News with the evidence used by the city state's attorney in reaching a plea deal with the 15-year-old suspect. Two different stories from two heartbroken families. Plus, Fox 45 News investigates what a recent report finds is lacking at the city's juvenile jail when it comes to rehabilitation.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
As expected, Donald Trump says he wants another term as president of the U.S. Moments ago, the former president announced his third White House bid, saying it's time for America's comeback. National correspondent Acha El-Nashar is in Mar-a-Lago. She'll join us at 10:30 on the road to 2024. First, we have breaking news out of Baltimore. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. An arrest tonight in the shooting death of a 13-year-old girl in southwest Baltimore.
Keith Daniels is live with the late breaking details. Keith?
Well, Kai, the last time we stood here talking about 13-year-old Kelsey Washington, she was fighting for her life. Now, that was last Monday night. She died yesterday, and tonight, police say they believe they have the man responsible for her shooting death.
Tavon Battle is behind bars tonight, accused of murder. Members of the Warrant Apprehension Task Force arrested him today at a home in Harford County. They brought him back to BPD's homicide unit, where he was interviewed. He's seen here in this video being transported to Central Booking, where he's been charged with first and second-degree murder. The shooting happened just before 5:30 last Monday evening on East Fayette Street near Caroline Street. Police say when they arrived, they found 13-year-old Kelsey Washington shot once. A bullet hit her in the head. Investigators say someone with a gun had fired into a parked vehicle trying to shoot someone when apparently a bullet struck the girl who was standing nearby. 2 days later, police released pictures of a man believed to be the suspect. That same day, Mayor Brandon Scott, after talking with the girl's mother, shared her plea for someone to come forward, help police find the man.
For anybody that knows anything, to do the right thing and step up. That baby had nothing to do with your beef. We know that even on the streets of Baltimore, folks that are hardened criminals understand how we cannot have babies being victimized by stuff that was happening between adults and someone else. Someone has to grow the fortitude and do the right thing on behalf of this mom and this baby in our community.
Tonight, police say the public responded with tips, which helped find the suspect. Tavon Battle now locked up, accused of murder.
Well, we're told Tavon Battle is waiting to see a court commissioner. For now, no bond has been set. Meantime, police say this murder investigation is ongoing. We're live now at City Police Headquarters. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. That killing near Hopkins Hospital means at least 18 children and teenagers have been killed in Baltimore this year. That is already more than we saw in any of the past 5 years. And here are some of the other young victims. In September, police say a 17-year-old shot and killed Jeremiah Brogdon at Mervo High School. And this spring, 17-year-old Jasmine Brunson, better known as Jay, was shot and killed at a party after his junior prom in East Baltimore. And on Memorial Day weekend, police say a 15-year-old Howard County boy killed 17-year-old Neil Mack at the Inner Harbor. 2 other teenage girls were wounded that night. The 15-year-old suspect is being charged as an adult.
Well, tonight, the fate of another Baltimore teen is in the court system. The 15-year-old squeegee kid charged with shooting and killing a Baltimore driver will be back in court on Thursday. His defense team is prepared to take a plea deal, but the family of Timothy Reynolds is fighting that. We have team coverage tonight. Jeff Abel is looking into Maryland's juvenile justice system and whether young people are receiving rehabilitation services they need. First, Mackenzie Frost has new surveillance pictures of the July events that led to Reynolds' death.
We have yet to see the video, but the still images are included in the latest court filings. And these new images come after the family of Timothy Reynolds broke their silence on Monday, urging a judge not to accept a current plea deal on the table, one that would send the current suspect into the juvenile system. After emotions were on full display from the family of the man killed at the Inner Harbor intersection of Light and Conway, and the mom of a 15-year-old facing first-degree murder charges, the public getting to see glimpses of what led up to this scene. The images detailed in the prosecution's latest court filings, pushing back on portions of the defense's narrative, especially outlining Tim Reynolds' blood alcohol level.
It's questionable as to whether or not he should have been behind the wheel of any automobile. What we did learn from the autopsy report is that he had 0.10% alcohol in the system.
Prosecutors say the blood heart alcohol level was 0.03, not 0.10.
The defense team has been suggesting that Mr. Reynolds was not in a position to drive. It's just false. It's irresponsible.
Through Vignaraja, serving as the Reynolds family's representatives as the criminal case plays out. And he says the narrative outlined by the defense is not accurate. And according to the photos, Vignaraja says the suspect can be seen walking over to the curb, grabbing a backpack that had a handgun inside, going back toward the intersection where Reynolds was walking.
The mask pulled over the defendant's face.
Vignaraja says Reynolds did swing the bat in his hands, but disputes the defense's claim that he hit anyone with it.
As the victim is walking away, one of the squeegee workers starts throwing rocks at the victim. The defendant, who is the furthest away from the victim, can be seen in the video footage shooting the victim as the victim is turning away.
Police say Reynolds was shot 5 times. Ahead of the hearing Thursday to determine if a judge will accept a plea deal extended to the 15-year-old who was 14 at the time of the incident, the deal includes the suspect pleading guilty to manslaughter and be sent to a juvenile center instead of first-degree murder charges he currently faces. Shannon Reynolds, Timothy's widow, says the city state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby's office, did not notify the family prior to the offer being made to the suspect.
I was blindsided Friday when I spoke and I heard that the state, and it's Mosby, offering a plea deal to Tavon Scott, who shot my husband point blank 5 times while he was walking away. She never contacted the family this whole time, and she's supposed to do that. It's protocol.
Mosby's office claims the Reynolds family was kept in the loop, but her office not answering a question Fox 45 News sent Tuesday asking, did State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby speak with the Reynolds family about the details of the plea deal before the agreement was extended to the defense?
Good morning, everyone.
Vignaraja points to other cases where Mosby did notify victims of a plea deal before they were made, like admitted arsonist Luther Trent, whose plea deal was tossed out due to the mistake made by the State's Attorney's office. Trent later pleading guilty to federal charges, too.
What we would ask at this point is for the judge to rectify Marilyn Mosby's mistake.
It's unclear whether the judge will accept the plea deal currently on the table. We have submitted a public records request to the police department as well as the state's attorney's office looking to get a copy of that video in question. In the meantime, the hearing is scheduled for Thursday morning, but we still don't know if it will be open to the public. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby called the shooting unacceptable, but she stands by the recommendation to move the case to the juvenile court system. She offered condolences to the family of Timothy Reynolds. We'd like to know what you think. Should Miss Marilyn Mosby recuse herself from the case of Timothy Reynolds' killing? 96% of those who voted say yes. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Well, if this case is transferred to juvenile court, defense attorneys say that system will provide the treatment the teen critically needs. However, recent audits suggest a much different story. Jeff Abel live for us tonight with more on this. Jeff?
Well, the recent audit found that Maryland's juvenile justice system is both overpopulated and understaffed, and critical programs aimed at helping the mental health of many violent teenagers are virtually non-existent. On the tough streets of the city, some of the most violent criminals are some of the city's youngest residents.
It's not normal behavior for a 14-year-old or 15-year-old to kill each other. So there have to be some underlying issues that have not been addressed.
On Monday, attorneys representing the teenager accused of killing driver Timothy Reynolds this summer insisted that the help their client needs can be found in Maryland's juvenile system, not the adult one.
They certainly have the ability to provide the programs and services that this young man needs.
Right. But in a scathing audit of Maryland's juvenile justice facilities last month, auditors found a string of problems, especially surrounding programs designed to improve the mental health of teens. Auditors write that detention centers lack specialized resources and the particular professional clinical expertise and clinical staffing levels necessary to address the needs of this population.
So you have people who deal with schizophrenia, who deal with anxiety and depression. And those issues, along with all the other mental health issues that people may be dealing with, are going unaddressed.
Kenji Scott formerly chaired Maryland's Juvenile Justice Coalition and says the state has long ignored programs aimed at improving the mental health of violent teens.
What the state of Maryland, the Department of Juvenile Services, has historically done was send kids as far as New Mexico, Wyoming, because we lack the capacity in the state of Maryland to provide these services for the young people who need them the most.
Until the state gets serious about improving the mental health of teens, Scott believes the level of violence will keep growing.
These are some things that we should have done decades ago that we haven't done, and we're paying the penalty right now. We're not only seeing our kids commit crimes, but we're also burying our kids as well.
Well, despite the problems, Scott believes the juvenile system is still better suited to assist many violent teens, even if it means sending them to other states. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Stay with Fox 45 News for continuing coverage. We'll let you know what happens in court on Thursday. You can find all our previous reporting on Tim Reynolds' death at foxbaltimore.com.
The latest weather maker moving through now, mainly with some rain from Towson down to Baltimore, so late night travels are going to be wet. Back to about Westminster, Gaithersburg. Actually had a little band of pink that popped up on the radar for a time, so perhaps getting some snow mixed in with the rain, at least some big fat flakes from time to time out well north and west. But outside of that, everybody is back to rain for sure. Cambridge down to Seaford and Delaware, Salisbury, you're getting rained on as well. Planning things out for the remainder of the evening through about 11 o'clock. The back edge of the rain tries to move through Baltimore, probably hangs out until just after midnight by about 2, 3 in the morning. That is starting to push eastbound by 3:45. Should be drying out, and it is dry but chilly tomorrow morning. I'm going to let you know what you're going to wake up to and how long that colder weather is going to last. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Next on Fox 45 News at 10, new details in the East Baltimore sinkhole that damaged several homes this summer. The city will not help pay for repairs. Why they say the homeowners are responsible as we make the families' voices heard. Plus, a second gun in city schools in just 5 days. Fox 45 looks at what's being done to keep children safe and has team coverage with a look at the root causes of school violence. And the political shockwaves rippling out from Mar-a-Lago. Coverage from the former president's big night in Florida.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Back now at the Fox 45 quad box. On the top left, the man accused of breaking into the home of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband last month and attacking her husband Paul with a hammer pleads not guilty. On the top right, a judge has sided with several groups, including the ACLU, to overturn Georgia's 6-week ban on abortion. On the bottom left, Pennsylvania House lawmakers are planning a vote tomorrow to impeach progressive Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. They blame his policies on crime. And on the bottom right, the Labor Department is reporting inflation is easing. Wholesale prices are seeing the smallest increase since July of last year.
Well, new concern tonight in Russia's war against Ukraine. Russia unleashing a massive barrage of missiles in the last 24 hours. Earlier, there was concern one of those landed in NATO ally Poland, killing 2 people. You're looking at some live pictures from Poland. Residents are waking up to fear the war could soon expand. Tonight, President Biden is saying it is unlikely the Russian-made missile that landed in Poland was fired from Russia. There was no update on where it could have come from, though. Ukrainian officials say, meanwhile, as many as 100 missiles were detected, causing blackouts in almost every major Ukrainian city. The attack could be retaliation for the retaking of Kherson last week, but others say it is part of Putin's plan to grind down the will of the Ukrainian people.
Ukraine is going to take this fight to the finish. Russia has slaughtered too many Ukrainian civilians for Ukraine to stop before evicting Russia.
Polish leaders are now looking to invoke Article 4 of the NATO pact. That has to do with consultation, meeting with members to assess the threat and discuss options. President Biden is in Indonesia right now. The White House says he has spoken by phone with the president of Poland. The president has also called on Congress to provide more than $37 million in emergency aid for Ukraine.
The hardest part to me is waking up every day, not hearing anything from the city, and every month when that mortgage come out.
New details tonight on the massive sinkhole in East Baltimore that severely damaged several homes back in July. Residents have finally heard back from the city, but it's not the response they were hoping for. After insurance denied their claims months ago, now the city is refusing to come to their financial assistance. Rebecca Pryor is hearing from residents and questioning the city.
4 months later, cleanup continues along North Avenue in East Baltimore after a massive sinkhole took residents by surprise.
Half of the street gone now.
Homeowner Quentin Bell says he hardly had time to even think before his family was being evacuated and everything he owned destroyed.
No, I didn't have any time to go get nothing out of the property. I didn't have nothing.
But now the city is claiming Bell and his neighbors should have seen the sinkhole coming. In a letter from Mayor Brandon Scott's office refusing their request for reimbursement, the city's lawyer writing, quote, there was no notice to the city of Baltimore of any issues prior to the date of the incident. Going on to say, before a local government is required to pay a citizen for a loss, the claimant must first show that the city had notice of the defect which caused the loss and a reasonable opportunity to correct the defect. It comes after insurance already denying their claims.
Then that just leaves you, well, who is responsible?
The sinkhole only forming after a 115-year-old stone arch storm drain suddenly collapsed, leaving residents to question, how could they have possibly warned the city before this tragedy took place? Fox 45 sending that question to the mayor's office and the Department of Public Works, asking, how could the city expect residents to give prior notification of a sinkhole that formed suddenly? And isn't it the city's responsibility to monitor and inspect its aging infrastructure? We did not immediately hear back. As for those that lost their homes,
now I feel like I'm losing my mind.
They're also losing hope, wondering why they've been left to pick up the pieces alone.
They abandoned me.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Port Covington, the once industrial South Baltimore waterfront being developed, is getting a new name.
That's right. The massive project south of I-95 will now be called Baltimore Peninsula. The project is being led by two companies, one based in New York, the other in San Francisco. They're working with owner Sagamore Ventures and Goldman Sachs. Mayor Scott joined others for the rebranding today. They say it's their hope this will lead Baltimore into the future.
Tonight, Baltimore Peninsula officially welcomes the curious, the committed, and the conscientious to join us in creating a bigger, better, bolder way of thinking about equitable placemaking.
The project's first 5 buildings are almost done. They include 2 office buildings and 3 residential buildings. Tenants and residents will start moving in early next year.
After a waterlogged afternoon commute overnight, well, we stay kind of wet, especially through about midnight. But after that, things do improve into tomorrow morning's commute. Look at those temperatures. They're going to be chilly in the 40s, maybe rising into the 50s tomorrow as sunshine returns. But we're back to the colder weather to wrap up the work week. I'm going to let you know if it stays for the Ravens game on Sunday. That's up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Hospitals struggling to keep up as a triple-demic sweeps across the nation. What one parent is most concerned about.
The morning continues on the campus of the University of Virginia after 3 football players are killed. Next, reaction from their coach.
Two school tragedies unfolding tonight in our nation. In Idaho, police say 4 students found murdered Sunday were targeted and killed with a knife or other edged weapon. The bodies of the students were found off campus. Investigators are piecing together a timeline of their activities Saturday night and early Sunday. Police say they are identifying persons of interest in the case. They call the attack isolated, though, although no motive has been revealed. In Virginia, the UVA community continues to mourn after Sunday's shooting claimed the lives of 3 football players. We are now hearing from the head coach about how his team is processing this tragedy. Christian Flores from our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C. has the outpouring of emotion.
The first meeting was really, really tough. Really tough.
UVA head football coach Tony Elliott's voice breaking all the way down to a whisper when remembering his first meeting with the team after Sunday night's shooting that killed their teammates, Deshaun Perry, Devin Chandler, and Lavelle Davis Jr.
Feels like it's a nightmare, to be honest with you. And I'm ready for somebody to pinch me and wake me up and say that this didn't happen.
Elliott said all 3 players were exceptional people who were beloved on and off the field and who had interests outside the sport.
3 beautiful young human beings that had a unbelievable future ahead of them.
As the team continues coping with tragedy, attention turns to the suspected killer, former UVA football player Christopher Jones Jr., and a possible motive. UVA Police Chief Tim Longo said Jones had been on the school's radar because of separate gun and hazing investigations when he was on the team.
I don't know the facts and circumstances of that investigation. I know that it was eventually closed due to witnesses that would not cooperate with the process.
I'm not aware of anything related to that, and I don't have any details beyond that, but I'm not aware of anything related to that.
In the meantime, the football team is left figuring out how to move forward.
I have to acknowledge the strength of our players. You prepare for this job. There's no chapter on a situation like this.
Christian Flores, Fox 45 News.
Former President Donald Trump announced a bid for the White House, a look at his party's support. For the 7th time this year, a firearm found on a student in Baltimore City schools. Fox 45 News continues to push for answers. What's being done to ensure students are safe in the classroom? Maryland is betting on sports gambling. The process and when you could soon be able to bet on sports events right from your phone.
The time is 10:30. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Our top stories: an arrest tonight in the shooting death of a 13-year-old girl in southeast Baltimore. Police say they've arrested this man, 35-year-old Tavon Battle. He's accused of opening fire by Douglas homes last Monday. 13-year-old Kelsey Washington was hit by a bullet and rushed to the hospital. Police confirm she passed away yesterday. Tavon is charged with murder, and police say their investigation is open and ongoing.
Baltimore police are also investigating a deadly shooting. It happened just before 2:30 this afternoon in East Baltimore. The shooting happened near two schools right at dismissal time. Now, police say they found an adult man who'd been shot. He was taken to the hospital where we're told he died. His death marks the city's 296th homicide, 4 shy of seeing 300 murders for the 8th straight year.
The Essex community is planning a vigil tomorrow for a homeless man killed last week. Baltimore County Police revealed today an autopsy has confirmed 67-year-old Michael Abe died from multiple gunshot wounds. He was found unresponsive last Tuesday, not far from the Middlesex Shopping Center. Police are investigating his death as a homicide. We are following two big stories tonight. In crisis in the classroom, another gun has been found inside Baltimore City schools, this time from an elementary middle school.
Nearly every big city mayor struggles with crime rates across the country. And tonight, we're following the debate that the problem starts with the education system. We have team coverage of the crisis in the classroom.
Let's start with Alexa Ashwell with news of another gun found inside a Baltimore City school.
A police source confirming this juvenile student was taken into custody. This marks the 7th gun seized from a student on Baltimore City public school grounds so far this year, and the 2nd from an elementary or middle school.
This is a picture of the loaded handgun a student brought into North Bend Elementary Middle School in Baltimore City this morning, according to a police source. The juvenile taken into custody.
It's extremely concerning anytime there is a student bringing a gun into a school, any school.
It's the 2nd gun to be brought into a city school in just a matter of days. This past Friday, a student bringing this gun into Mervo High School. The mayor then speaking to the issue, as this now marks the 7th gun to be seized from Baltimore City public school grounds just 3 months into the school year, and comes after a record 15 guns were seized from students last school year.
When you see the record amount of guns that this police department is seizing, that means that we have a lot of work to do on the backside to talk about that accountability.
The mayor speaking to consequence and accountability after the arrest, what Johnson also says needs to improve.
But there needs to be a real consequence that's known, that young people are aware of, a direct consequence, not what could happen with the gun or the danger involving the gun, but what happens if you get caught bringing a gun to school, that something serious is going to happen. And I don't think that's the perception. And I think until it is, we're going to continue to see this.
Johnson taking it a step further. He's joining City Schools FOP Clyde Boatwright.
The message is simple to our parents. We're doing the best we can with what we have.
And Baltimore City Councilman Robert Stokes.
We are now handicapping our school police.
In the stance that Baltimore City Schools police should be allowed to carry their firearm while inside city schools. As it stands, the weapon must be placed in a safe.
It's a matter of time before one of these students brings a gun to school with ill intent and is able to use it, and our police officers are powerless to stop them.
Now, any change to that policy would require action from lawmakers in Annapolis. That has been attempted before, but those attempts have failed. Some believe the push should continue. In Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, nearly every big city mayor struggles with crime rates. Some argue the problem starts in the classroom. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins continues our team coverage from Washington.
Concerning crime rates, still very much a part of everyday life in America's big cities. In Chicago, violent crime is up 40% year over year. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh visiting the city Monday, saying these headlines miss the point.
They talk about crime, but they don't talk about the root cause of crime. The root cause of crime is poverty, lack of education, lack of opportunity, lack of choices, lack of help.
Addressing the root cause of crime is on the to-do list of nearly every big city mayor, but few appear to be making progress. Walsh served as mayor of Boston for 7 years.
We find the highest crime rates and some of the worst poverty rates in these cities, which are almost entirely run exclusively by Democrats.
Heritage Foundation's E.J. Antoni makes another point.
If we put aside all of the talking points and the ideology for a moment and we look strictly at the data, what we find is that there really is no link between poverty and crime.
According to Antoni, the problem is when there's no pathway to get out of poverty. Education has historically been a solution, but inner city schools increasingly falling short. Education is reaching a crisis point in Baltimore as schools graduate students who can barely read. The city now facing a lawsuit led by prominent civil rights attorney Ben Crump.
Without a quality education, how are you supposed to be able to support yourself and your family? And it is almost like a re-engineered design for the school-to-prison pipeline.
The Baltimore lawsuit moving forward after a judge denied all motions brought by the school board to have the case dismissed. Attorney Ben Crump saying what happens in Baltimore could provide an example for similar lawsuits in other cities. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
A week after the midterm elections and the race for county executive in Anne Arundel County is taking shape.
That's right. Republican Jessica Hare's lead has dwindled. The numbers just in the past 30 minutes show Stuart Pittman, the Democrat, in front by 192 votes. There are still thousands of ballots to be counted, but the mail-ins have heavily favored the incumbent. Pittman will hold a campaign update tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You can watch that live right here or online at foxbaltimore.com.
You're looking live right now at the U.S. Congress as the balance of power is up in the air. Democrats have already clinched the majority in the Senate, and Republicans continue to inch closer to a majority in the House. GOP leader Kevin McCarthy has been chosen as Republicans' leading nominee to be the next Speaker of the House. Only 188 Republicans voted for him, but he needs 218 votes to actually win the Speaker's gavel in January when the new Congress convenes.
Meanwhile, Florida Senator Rick Scott is planning to unseat Mitch McConnell as the top Republican in the chamber. McConnell is the longest-serving GOP leader, and this will be his first real opponent in years.
We're terrified that we won't be able to take care of all the kids.
Hospitals are struggling to keep up as a triple-demic sweeps across the nation. What one parent is most concerned about. And Maryland is betting on sports gambling. The big day ahead tomorrow. Port Covington gets rebranded. Ahead on the late edition, Mayor Scott explains what went into the decision to change the name despite its lack of popularity.
And planning your commute tomorrow morning, well, if you're going to be an early riser, you're still going to have some rain that's left over, or at least maybe some wet roads. The rain should end shortly after midnight. By about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, clouds and some sun breaks out. And actually, it's a nice day tomorrow. But I'll let you know what comes in between. We're tracking the end of all this rain on the Future Scanner in a couple of minutes.
Well, the most powerful rocket ever built inches closer to liftoff. You're looking at live at Artemis 1. It is set to launch out of Cape Canaveral in just about 3 hours. The long-anticipated launch has been delayed twice due to liquid hydrogen leaks. The mission marks NASA's return to the moon 50 years after the last Apollo mission. This launch features only mannequins. An 80% favorable launch window is open between 1 and 3 a.m. Let's bring in meteorologist Jonathan Myers. Jonathan, what does the weather look like down there?
Yeah, actually, it looks like temperatures near 70 and mostly cloudy skies. So I think we're going to get this thing off. But if you also remember, on top of all the other problems they've had, there was a little hurricane called Nicole that came through there past couple of weeks, so that wasn't good for them either. So thankfully, again, we're going to, I really think, finally get that rocket off overnight tonight, early tomorrow morning. Now, around here, there were no rockets going off. There was snow coming down in western Maryland. Take a look at this. Some of the first flakes of the season for these folks, and it accumulated. Frostburg, about 2.5 inches of snow, and that out in Allegheny County. In Snow Country in Garrett County, Grantsville, 2 inches. Accident not too far from places like Wisp Ski Resort, where they're already making snow and hoping to open by Thanksgiving weekend if the conditions cooperate. 1.6 inches of snow. Ridgely in Allegheny County getting an inch, and back out in Garrett County, McHenry and Deer Park, right about a ½ inch of snow, where they get some of that that good water, all that bottled water out in Deer Park. Now, in terms of rain, that stuff is beginning to move out. So this is good news for us for the morning commute. Now, did have some indications out around Columbia westbound all the way up to Eldersburg, as well as Manchester and Westminster, where things are now currently drying out. About an hour or two ago, some pinks showing up on the radar. So maybe they had a couple of wet snowflakes mixing in there. Temperatures were well above freezing, though. What's left, really, Severna Park into Severn. And just north of Annapolis, you got some rain here, maybe even some heavier rain that's near Rivera Beach. And then onto the eastern shore, also, there's a little bit of rain left. But this is on the quick move out. So I think by about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, this whole mess of moisture moves east. This whole storm system reforms off the coast, and then it shoots north and eastbound as well. Takes all the rain and all the snow concerns with it. Dries out behind this thing, and actually tomorrow's a really nice day. As this system moves northbound, it's going to consolidate actually into a pretty major coastal storm. There could be a solid up to about 6 to 12 inches of snow across portions of Maine out of this. The rain will be gone again by about sunrise here, and then it's just kind of breezy and a little bit warmer for tomorrow, at least for one day. Highs 50 to 55. So if you want to get outside and enjoy, probably tomorrow's your day to do it. Although it will remain dry pretty much the next 7 days, it is going to cool down once again. Right now it's 40. Rainy. Temperatures only making it into the mid-40s for highs today, so temperatures really have kind of stalled, haven't gone much of anywhere. Umbrellas out, winds out of the north at 10. Feels like, almost freezing. It's that stuff that just kind of goes through you. Temperature now at 40 here in Baltimore, 37 at Cockeysville and at Westminster, a little bit cooler at Frederick with 36. Temperature at 38 at Elkton and some 40s along the eastern shore. Right now, the snow has finally tapered off and cut off right around Oakland as well as into Cumberland. Hagerstown at 33. Westminster now in the clouds at 37. And then again, right along the eastern shore, that's still where some showers are left over. But even those, notice, by about midnight or so, begin to lighten up. And thereafter, although they kind of lag behind with a little bit of drizzle through about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they really kind of taper off. And then by about 5 a.m. early tomorrow morning through about 6:45 as the sun rises, temperatures about 35 to 40. Not the prettiest start, but hey, at least it won't be raining anymore. Some of the roads may still be wet, and there will still be ponding after the additional about ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain that we're going to get. 39 degrees, lots of clouds. Rain ends after midnight tonight. 53, good day for a jog tomorrow as it becomes mostly sunny. Good looking days, but cooler once again for Thursday, Friday. Should be in the mid-50s this time of year. We're probably going to be about 10 degrees below that all the way through the Ravens game on Sunday, starting in the cold 20s, ending in the mid-40s, and then it warms up a little bit into early next week.
Jonathan, thank you. A health alert with new concerns as a so-called triple-demic of the flu, COVID, and RSV continues to overwhelm the U.S. healthcare system. Health officials confirm a child in California is now the first person under the age of 5 to die this season after contracting a combination of RSV and the flu. According to the CDC, much of the nation is seeing a higher than typical number of flu and RSV cases for this time of year. Many emergency rooms and ICUs are at capacity, prompting some hospitals to set up overflow tents to handle the surge.
The ER is packed. The waiting room is just full of patients in lines. And patients are in the hallways being treated because there's not enough rooms.
Viruses such as RSV and the flu can cause breathing difficulties and can be deadly among children who are the most vulnerable to severe complications, especially if they have underlying conditions. Health officials continue to urge vaccination when it comes to flu and COVID. Well, in your consumer alert now, there are new fears about what a large batch of corporate layoffs could mean to this already volatile economy, with predictions pouring in a recession could be looming. National correspondent Christine Frizzao takes a look at this new factor, bringing with it new worries.
In a sea of darkness that has been the U.S. economy, one bright spot has remained.
The jobs market has been red hot for months. America's job machine is firing on all cylinders here.
The unemployment rate recently reaching its lowest point in 50 years. Some employers enticing workers with higher wages and better benefits. But now, a turnaround, with more than 25,000 layoffs just this month in the technology sector alone. Some other industries scaling back as well.
One of the reasons they're having to do layoffs now is because they can't keep up with the additional costs of higher wages and salaries, and then the cost of their building material, the cost of transportation.
Facebook parent company Meta cutting 11,000 workers. The New York Times reporting Amazon may be next, with 10,000 layoffs set to begin any day. The company's founder with this assessment.
The economy does not look great right now. Things are slowing down. You're seeing layoffs in many, many sectors of the economy. People are slowing down. The probabilities say if we're not in a recession right now, we're likely to be in one very soon.
President Biden has sought to calm concerns.
We are not anywhere near a recession right now in terms of the growth, but I think we can have what most economists call a soft landing.
Some economists laying out a different take.
I'm worried about what you might call a crash landing. We might see that deadly combination of a slow-growing economy and a persistently high inflation rate.
But this week also brought some good news on inflation. Two sets of data that show inflation pressures are cooling. Both the Producer Price Index, which measures the cost of goods and services before it reaches consumers, and the Consumer Price Index, which showed an increase of 7.7%. Now, still high, but lower than analysts expected. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzao.
New tonight on the late edition, Grammy nominations are in, along with some history, a record tied by Beyonce and another artist. Find out who next. The Baltimore Aquarium's rainforest exhibit gets a new look. Why officials are calling it a real win for the environment. And an accelerated timeline for online sports gambling in Maryland. Why experts are optimistic it could be available by the end of the month. It is a big day tomorrow in Maryland's effort to bring sports betting to sports fans. Placing a wager on your favorite team will soon be as easy as downloading an app on your phone. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is in Hanover with details on the new timeline for mobile sports betting.
An LLC associated with Live Casino and Hotel here in Hanover expected to receive one of the first mobile sports betting licenses here in Maryland. And for anyone who's been keeping track, this has been a long time coming. 2 years after sports betting was legalized, Marylanders will soon finally be able to place bets on their favorite teams right from their phones.
We're close. We're about a week away.
Mobile sports betting now likely to be up and running in time for Thanksgiving, a day of family, food, and for many, football.
Happy that they are not delaying it anymore, and we're actually going to get something going for the football games on Thanksgiving.
The Sports Wagering Application Review Commission, our partner in this, SWARC, has decided to move their license award meeting up to tomorrow.
Tomorrow, a state commission is expected to award 10 licenses for mobile sports betting, setting the stage to have betting sites and applications up and running by next week.
It quite literally puts sports betting at your fingertips. No longer do you have to go to one of the casinos in Maryland to actually place a bet.
Robert Linehan with XL Media tracks sports betting developments all over the country. He says mobile wagering will allow fans to place bets on any sport, any team, anywhere in the world, and knows the runway has been long for Marylanders.
Maryland has had the longest amount of time between the sports betting bill being signed into law to when citizens will be able to place a bet on their phone. No other state has been as slow as Maryland.
Director of the Maryland Lottery and Gaming acknowledges the wait to get this thing going, but says in about a year, once both retail and mobile sports wagering are fully ramped, the subsequent tax revenue will likely be in the tens of millions.
We'll probably be at an annual run rate of about $25 to $30 million of additional tax revenue, which is all earmarked, as you know, for the blueprint for Maryland's Future Fund.
Maryland Lottery and Gaming calling this an early gift with a dose of advice for anyone planning to place a bet.
Please play responsibly. Set a budget, set a limit, stay within it, have some fun, enjoy it, and recognize that there's a long season ahead still to play.
So yes, 10 mobile sports betting licenses expected to be awarded tomorrow, but it's likely just the first round. The state says it's received a total of 21 applications for those licenses of entities looking to get into this mobile sports betting world. In Hanover, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Well, new tonight, the MLB Managers of the Year have been announced. Former Oriole Buck Showalter got the National League honor for his job with the New York Mets. The Cleveland Guardians, Terry Francona won the American League Award, and the O's' Brandon Hyde was a runner-up. And major roster news, the Orioles have added Grayson Rodriguez and 4 other minor league players to their 40-man roster. Rodriguez is the top remaining prospect on the farm. The 5 players are now protected from other teams in the upcoming Rule 5 draft. See the protected players and how the Rule 5 draft works on foxbaltimore.com/sports. Ahead on the late edition, newly released photos outline the moments leading up to Timothy Reynolds' death, what his family says the pictures prove, and why defense attorneys disagree. And the Squeegee Kid's defense attorneys argue juvenile detention would be the right place for him, why audits into the juvenile justice system are raising red flags about the rehabilitation process.
This remarkable pyramid of glass has defined Baltimore's skyline for 5 decades. But after 42 years of keeping the elements out and the animals in, it was time to replace the glass panels that comprise this pyramid to ensure the safety of our guests, of the animals, of our staff, and everybody else.
Well, after months of renovations, a major exhibit at the National Aquarium in Baltimore is back open. The Upland Tropical Rainforest exhibit shut down in the spring for improvements. The rainforest features many of the aquarium's birds and plants. The renovation included replacing nearly 700 panels of glass that make up the roof of the exhibit, all of which have been recycled.
In a real win for the environment, not one piece of glass has gone into the waste stream. We were able to recycle 100% of the old glass, which was 46 tons of glass, and it's now reflective paint striping in a highway near you in Maryland.
We'll be looking for it. The aquarium says the roof replacement will ensure the exhibit will be in good condition for the next 50 years.
An arrest is made in the shooting death of a 13-year-old girl in Baltimore. How the public helped track down the suspect. Newly released images show the moments before Timothy Reynolds' death. How defense attorneys and Reynolds' family says the pictures could impact a plea deal.
I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
And a third crack at the White House for former President Donald Trump. How his announcement could shift the political landscape.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News Late Edition.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. We begin tonight with an arrest in the shooting death of a 13-year-old girl last week in Baltimore. Fox 45's Keith Daniels is breaking this news for us tonight. Keith, what can you tell us?
Well, Kai, the last time we stood here, 13-year-old Kelsey Washington was fighting for her life. Now, that was last Monday evening, and tonight, police say they believe they have the man responsible for her shooting death.
Tavon Battle is behind bars tonight, accused of murder. Members of the Warrant Apprehension Task Force arrested him today at a home in Harford County. They brought him back to BPD's homicide unit, where he was interviewed. He's seen here in this video being transported to Central Booking, where he's been charged with first and second-degree murder. The shooting happened just before 5:30 last Monday evening on East Fayette Street near Caroline Street. Police say when they arrived, they found 13-year-old Kelsey Washington shot once. A bullet hit her in the head. Investigators say someone with a gun had fired into a parked vehicle trying to shoot someone when apparently a bullet struck the girl who was standing nearby. 2 days later, police released pictures of a man believed to be the suspect. That same day, Mayor Brandon Scott, after talking with the girl's mother, shared her plea for someone to come forward, help police find the man.
For anybody that knows anything, to do the right thing and step up. That baby had nothing to do with your beef. We know that even on the streets of Baltimore, folks that are hardened criminals understand how we cannot have babies being victimized by stuff that was happening between adults and someone else. Someone has to grow the fortitude and do the right thing on behalf of this mom and this baby in our community.
Tonight, police say the public responded with tips, which helped find the suspect. Tavon Battle now locked up, accused of murder.
Well, we're told Tavon Battle is waiting to see a court commissioner for now. Bond has not been set. Meantime, police say this investigation remains open and ongoing. We're live at City Police Headquarters. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Baltimore police say a man is dead following a shooting this afternoon near Lakewood Elementary in Broadway East. Police were called to Hoffman Street just before 2:30 in the afternoon. The victim was taken to the hospital where we're told he later died. Students in nearby Fort Worthington Elementary were kept inside at dismissal time as police responded to the shooting. Right now, there's no word of a suspect. The teen accused of killing 48-year-old Timothy Reynolds accepts a plea deal to avoid first-degree murder, but a judge still has to sign off on that deal. Reynolds' family argues these images released today show the case goes beyond manslaughter. They say the shooter targeted Reynolds after he had been hit with a cement block. Now, the defense claims Reynolds was dangerous, hitting a squeegee kid with a bat.
I was blindsided Friday when I spoke and I heard that the state in its Mosby offering a plea deal to Tavon Scott.
It is not ideal to have a 15-year-old, someone who was actually 14 at the time of the offense, being housed and detained among men.
Well, the plea deal hearing is set for Thursday morning, but it's unclear if that will be open to the public because it involves a juvenile. If the case does make its way to juvenile court, defense attorneys say that system will give the teen the treatment he needs. However, recent audits tell a different story. Fox 45's Jeff Abel explains.
Well, a recent audit found that Maryland's juvenile justice system is both overpopulated and understaffed, and programs aimed at improving the mental health of many violent teens are simply non-existent. On the tough streets of the city, some of the most violent criminals are some of the city's youngest residents.
It's not normal behavior for a 14-year-old or 15-year-old to kill each other. So there have to be some underlying issues that have not been addressed.
On Monday, attorneys representing the teenager accused of killing driver Timothy Reynolds this summer insisted that the help their client needs can be found in Maryland's juvenile system, not the adult one.
They certainly have the ability to provide the programs and services that this young man needs. Right.
But in a scathing audit of Maryland's juvenile justice facilities last month, auditors found a string of problems, especially surrounding programs designed to improve the mental health of teens. Auditors write that detention centers lack specialized resources and the particular professional clinical expertise and clinical staffing levels necessary to address the needs of this population.
So you have people who deal with schizophrenia, who deal with anxiety and depression. And those issues, along with all the other mental health issues that people may be dealing with, are going unaddressed.
Kenji Scott formerly chaired Maryland's Juvenile Justice Coalition and says the state has long ignored programs aimed at improving the mental health of violent teens.
What the state of Maryland, the Department of Juvenile Services, has historically done was send kids as far as New Mexico, Wyoming, because we lack the capacity in the state of Maryland to provide these services for the young people who need them the most.
Until the state gets serious about improving the mental health of teens, Scott believes the level of violence will keep growing.
These are some things that we should have done decades ago that we haven't done, and we're paying the penalty right now. We're not only seeing our kids commit crimes, but we're also burying our kids as well.
Despite the problems, Scott believes the juvenile justice system is still better equipped to assist many violent teens, even if it means shipping them to other states. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Well, a live look at Bali, Indonesia, where President Biden and world economic leaders are arriving for the G20 summit. This comes moments after Biden addressed the Russian rockets fired into Poland that killed 2 people. He said it's unlikely that the rockets were fired from Russia, but did not elaborate on where they came from, and not ruling out that Russia was responsible. The president will hold a meeting with the UK Prime Minister any moment when he arrives.
Some pretty good rain coming down this evening, even some indications on radar of some pink well north and west up toward Manchester, Westminster, Gaithersburg, indicating a mix of rain and even some wet snow, perhaps. Didn't have anyone writing in that they saw it, but nonetheless, Dundalk all the way back to Essex and Riviera Beach. We still have a little bit of light rain that's falling here, even a couple of patches of heavier rain on the upper portion of the Chesapeake Bay, not too far from Edgewood and Chestertown. We're seeing the back edge of this setup, so this is some great news for the morning commute. Right around Shrewsbury and Cockeysville, pretty much out of the city at this point, although there's still some drizzle around. It's 41 and lots of clouds. BWI reporting some of that light rain and drizzle. You can see it in the background, too, maybe a little fog as well. Aberdeen at 41, even some 30s up Westminster way. Last hour, they had some reports of flurries up in that direction. Temperature at 41, mostly cloudy skies for drop-off time at the bus stop, so jackets out, and a much better looking day tomorrow. Breezy, Partly to mostly cloudy and highs close to 50. I'm going to let you know how long this somewhat milder air sticks around coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Still ahead, East Baltimore residents continue to demand compensation after a sinkhole swallows their homes. Why the city says it won't help. We're learning more about the East Baltimore sinkhole that severely damaged several homes in July. The city finally got back to residents, but it's not the news they were hoping for. The city's law department claims that there was no notice of any issues prior to the incident, meaning the city could avoid paying for losses since they didn't have any prior knowledge of any warning signs. Well, some furious residents say they were left hanging out to dry.
They ain't even give me a call and say, well, hey, Mr. Bell, are you living somewhere, or do you have somewhere to stay? They abandoned.
Residents are asking a simple question: how would they know of a sinkhole that's about to open up under their homes? Meantime, Fox 45 News sent questions to the Department of Public Works asking if it is the city's responsibility to monitor aging infrastructure. We are still waiting to hear back from DPW. The race for Anne Arundel County Executive continues to evolve. After tonight's ballot update, incumbent Democrat Stuart Pippin has taken the lead over Republican challenger Jessica Hare by fewer than 200 votes. There are still thousands of ballots to count, but so far the mail-ins have heavily favored the incumbent county executive. Pittman will hold a campaign update tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and Fox 45 News will have complete coverage. Former President Trump officially announces another run at the White House. Still ahead, what that could mean for other candidates in 2024.
And the last of our rain and downpours beginning to move out and gone by tomorrow morning. Although there could be still a few wet roads, we'll be steadily and readily drying out. I'm going to let you know how long the drier weather stays and if we've got another slug of colder weather to come. My Weather Authority forecast.
This was not the end. It was only the beginning of our fight to rescue the American dream.
Former President Donald Trump makes it official. He will run for president again in 2024 after losing the White House 2 years ago. National correspondent Dr. El-Nashar was in the room for his speech and has more from Palm Beach, Florida.
In a room full of supporters and members of his inner circle, former President Trump launching his presidential campaign, speaking for about an hour, focusing on his objective to return the country to what it was before he left office. And though it's a new campaign, a new election cycle, Trump using many of the same messages we've heard from him before.
America's comeback starts right now.
Former President Trump, once again, a presidential candidate, using his kickoff speech to focus on the economy, foreign policy, immigration, and repeating lies about election fraud, calling his time out of office the pause. Clearly eager to get back in the political ring, mainly pointing his criticisms at President Joe Biden. No coincidence, as Trump was speaking, Biden's non-White House Twitter account posted, "Donald Trump failed America." It's not a given that Trump will be the GOP nominee in 2024. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former Vice President Mike Pence, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, just to name a few, also expected to run. Trump did not name them, but went as far as to say this.
This is not a task for a politician or a conventional candidate. This is a task for a great movement.
Trump also seeming to tiptoe around the tough questions Republicans are facing about their party's future following the midterms. He touted their projected takeover of the House and predicted more voters will turn out for his party in 2024. One of the few Republicans Trump named specifically during the speech was Republican Georgia Senate candidate Herschel Walker. Trump encouraged people to turn up and vote for him in the December 6th runoff. But keep in mind, there were some who were urging Trump to delay this campaign announcement, fearing that it would hurt Herschel Walker's chances and repeat the same defeat that Republicans saw in that state in 2020. In Palm Beach, Florida, I'm El-Nashar.
Well, here's a look at tomorrow's headlines. Activists will hold a vigil for a homeless man killed in Baltimore last week along Taylor and Eastern Avenues. As we mentioned earlier, Anne Arundel County Executive Stuart Pittman will make an announcement regarding the election. And Mayor Brandon Scott is expected to unveil a series of grants for several neighborhood-based organizations in Baltimore. Well, we saw it all today. We did. Snow in western Maryland, not a lot, but it was some, and rain here in the Baltimore area. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Yeah, and how much did we get in some of those pictures? Well, Frostburg got up to about 2.5 inches of snow. Now, mind you, this is all Allegheny County as well as Garrett County. If you've been up to Wisp Ski Resort, you kind of know where I'm talking about. It's way up there. But nonetheless, Grantsville getting about 2 inches of snow. Accident, that's on the way to Wisp on the road there. 1.6 inches of snow. And they're already making snow at Wisp. I saw some posts on Facebook, Twitter, that they're trying to open up by Thanksgiving weekend if they can get those conditions to cooperate, and this is certainly cooperating. An inch of snow at Ridgely, that's back in Allegheny County, McHenry and Deer Park, of course, where the spring water is. About a ½ inch of snow in Garrett County as well. HD radar, not a whole lot in the way of any snow around here. It was a cold rain pretty much everywhere, except north and west. I did see for a time some pink showing up from Westminster all the way down to Gaithersburg, so there could have been a few wet flakes mixing in. That's all gone now. It's just some light rain and drizzle and some more rain that's down south and east. This is the heaviest stuff that's across the area. Easton down to Cambridge, all the way up to Milford, Delaware, Seaford, and Lexington Park in deep southern Maryland. Now, as we put on the national view of the radar, you'll see here that most of the heaviest precipitation continues to now move away, putting its eyes now aiming on Maine and portions of New England. There are winter storm warnings up there where there could be 6 to 12 inches of snow out of this. Around here, it was about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain. A lot of it has now ended as this is beginning to transfer energy to the coast. And now it's going to shoot up north and east, and that's going to kind of dry everything out nicely for tomorrow. And the back edge of any showers really going to probably hang out only until about 2, 3 in the morning. Then we're stuck with some clouds, and then this is all a memory. 41 degrees, rainy skies right now. We're only in the mid-40s for highs today, so really did not make much of a change. If you do have any late-night travels, we've got some ponding as well as some wet roads. Take it nice and slow. Even a little bit of fog patchy around the area. That'll probably persist into the morning. Winds out of the north at about 5 miles an hour. Humidity high at 93%. No surprise. And the wind chill at 38. So not very pretty. Just kind of goes right through you with the temperatures all in the 30s to around 40. Eastern Shore a little bit milder, but still only in the mid-40s. And you can kind of see where the back edge of the rain is. We did have snow out in western Maryland today. That's now just clouds. Temperatures still right around freezing, so maybe some icy roads over the Blue Ridge Mountains. 33 at Hagerstown. Then we hop safely above freezing. All our metro area, as well as Westminster back to Frederick, and really quite a bit milder as we head onto the eastern shore where the rain still persists. But this is all going to be moving out after midnight. Notice by about 2, 3 in the morning, even the last of the drizzle is starting to push away. There could be a patch or two of fog late night into early tomorrow morning. Could even have a sprinkle left over, but for the most part, I think this is almost said and done. 39 degrees, lots of clouds. Rain ends for tonight, damp and chilly. Tomorrow, good day for a run or a jog. Maybe not so much like this guy in the shorts, but it's going to be a pretty nice day, although the winds will be out of the west-northwest at 12 to 20, so it's going to feel cooler than it is. Should be at about 58 on average this time of year. We're only going to be at 53, and it gets colder from there. So it's going to be 7 days pretty much spent below average, mid to upper 40s. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, some freezes overnight once again. That goes all the way into next Monday. Low 20s for lows there. Ravens game looks chilly but sunny and not as cold by the middle of next week.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Here's a look at today's top trending stories. Number 1, Port Covington undergoes a rebrand. The waterfront development in South Baltimore is changing its name to Baltimore Peninsula. Officials say the first phase of construction will be completed this month, and the area will be open for business early next year.
Well, this is a project that's been long coming. This is another part of Baltimore's renaissance. The city, of course, has been a partner, but very grateful to Sagamore, Kevin, all the partners here really changing, again, showing what's possible when Baltimore works together.
It is receiving mixed reaction on Facebook. Scott asked why the change, saying Port Covington was fine. Quavin says he was just there this weekend, impressed by the construction. And Rita is still skeptical, adding she's heard about these changes for a while and will believe it when she sees it. Number 2, Grammy nominations have been announced and a familiar face leads that list. Beyonce picked up 9 nominations this year, tying husband Jay-Z for most all time with 88 nominations. At 28 wins, she's only 4 away from the Grammy record. This year's ceremony is in L.A. in February.
Flu is on the rise, and healthcare providers say it is a season like no other. I'm Liz Bonas. We explain why and what you need to know if you're feeling sick. It is just ahead.
For the second week in a row, flu cases and hospitalizations have doubled in the United States. Medical reporter Liz Bonus takes a look at the common symptoms and early returns from the vaccine.
Hey there, everybody. The flu season appears to be off to one of the fastest starts in years, according to the CDC. Those tracking cases and hospitalizations also say there is a common symptom that may set in and give you an early warning sign that you are getting this illness. Even before the coughing, sneezing, and upper respiratory struggles take over, for many, a headache is a chief complaint as flu sets in.
It's a pretty strong headache in some cases, so it's a little bit unusual.
Dr. Zach Jenkins is a Cedarville University clinical pharmacist who says as hospital beds are filling up, it does appear the headache is linked to a viral illness.
It could be one of the flu strains that's circulating.
These early warning signs may be critical to point people to early intervention with antiviral medications such as Tamiflu. The CDC reports so far this season, more than 1,300 people in the U.S. have died from the flu. Nearly 3 million have already been ill from it. More than 20,000 people have been hospitalized, the highest levels at this time in the season in more than a decade. Why would it be rising faster than in previous years?
We had a lot of schools that were closed, and kids tend to be the biggest spreaders of a lot of these respiratory viruses.
That put us in sort of immunity debt, Dr. Jenkins says, and the only way to get some of that back now is through flu vaccinations, which the CDC reports are off to a slow start. Now, the vaccine does appear to be a good match for this year's strains based on what we've seen so far from the Southern Hemisphere. Too soon right now to know for sure. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Now back to you.
Well, still ahead, turkey, stuffing, potatoes, and bets. Why online betting in Maryland is now on track to be approved by Thanksgiving. New tonight, the MLB Managers of the Year have been announced. Former Oriole Buck Showalter got the National League honor. The Cleveland Guardians' Terry Francona won the American League. And the O's' Brandon Hyde was a runner-up. And major roster news, the O's have added Grayson Rodriguez and 4 other minor leaguers to their 40-man roster. Rodriguez is the top remaining prospect on the farm. The 5 players are now protected from their other teams picking up the upcoming Rule 5 draft. Now see the others on foxbaltimore.com/sports. All the updates for you. Well, Thanksgiving, believe it or not, is only 9 days away, and this year's turkey could come at the side of sports betting. After a 2-year process, mobile sports gambling is now likely to be up and running in time for Turkey Day. Tomorrow, a state commission is expected to award 10 licenses for mobile sports betting.
Happy that they are not delaying it anymore, and we're actually going to get something going for the football games on Thanksgiving. Maryland has had the longest amount of time between the sports betting bill being signed into law to when citizens will be able to place a bet on their phone. No other state has been as slow as Maryland.
Well, the state says it's received a total of 21 applications. We'll keep you updated. Well, the Ravens have just passed the midway point of the season, coming off a bye week, and this year's Pro Bowl voting is now underway. You can vote at NFL.com up to 6 times for each position. Voting closes December 18th, so be sure to make your selection soon. That's all for Sunday Late Edition. Thank you for watching. I'm Kai Jackson. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.